Welcome to this week's Endurance for Everyone podcast.
The following program is for entertainment purposes only. Though the hosts of this show are certified Ironman coaches, their attempts at long-course triathlons and endurance events should not be taken as an endorsement for you to do something stupid too. You should make your own bad decisions, then podcast about it. Now, let's start the show.
Happy New Year and welcome to episode 167 of the Endurance for Everyone podcast. I am here again, John Harrison. I am the owner and operator of this said podcast because I cannot seem to locate a co-host, but that's okay. We're going to keep going as we do and get guests in here as we can and move forward into the year 2019. Going to be a big year. Have a marathon in 13 days that I am not sure how I feel about at this point, but we're going to go forward. Got Christine Cox coming out to kind of run walk with me and see if that'll help push me through. Went for a little run yesterday and had some recurrence of some foot pain, but it's okay today, so I'm kind of optimistic that it's a one-time thing. So as we head into 2019 and looking forward to the year ahead, we're hoping that we're going to have a great and successful year. Every year it happens. On January 2nd, you know it's coming. Your once comfortable gym, your haven from the outside world, your escape from reality where you can focus on yourself for an hour or so in relative solitude is, well, it's different. You notice it right away before you can even get into the door. The parking lot, which used to be half full at 5 o'clock at night, is now packed with cars, most of them being minivans, suspiciously. So you end up parking 3 blocks away from the gym, but that's okay. It's extra cardio, right? So you grab your bag and you hoof it into the front door, and you're walking by the front windows. You spy the kids club and the frantic looks on all the once calm staff manning the room. The place is overrun with 3 to 5 year old kids yelling and screaming and fighting. That's okay. It's no worries. They're separated. They won't be in the way. But the hard truth is, it's not the kids that are your worries. It's the parents that you have to deal with. You walk through the front door and there they are, packs of them, wandering through the gym floor, eyeing each machine, standing by them, waiting to see someone else use it so they know how to. Mostly congregating by the old standbys, which are always grouped by sex. The men are always by the chest press machines, and the women are by the hip flexors machines. Every treadmill is taken, and every one of them is plugged into something. Their new iPhone, their new tablet, their Kindle, their Nook, or worst of all, they're talking on their damn cell phones. You can smell the newness on their workout gear. They are new right out of the Christmas boxes, yet to even be washed once. The pool has a waiting line 4 people deep because no one is comfortable enough to share a lane, so everyone waits. The trainer and staff are frantically running around, not helping anyone, but trying their damnedest to sell personal training sessions or special 2-to-1 memberships that are available today only. And they will sell them because regardless of what rhetoric they give you, gyms are not interested in getting you healthy. This is actually against their business model. They want to sell you that year membership. They could care less. Well, they couldn't care less, I guess I should say, if you ever show up again once that you sign that paperwork. Just keep that in mind when they're selling you. Good health and fitness free of illness is bad for business in the gym world. But with all that said, with all the irritation that the resolutionists cause to us enlightened souls, there's one clear fact for the majority of us. We were all resolutionists at one point in our lives. I have, in fact, been a resolutionist more than once. And the only time it actually stuck happened in May of 2010, and it wasn't on January 1st. So here's the thing. Try to swallow your irritation. If you see someone struggling with a machine they don't know how to use, help them instead of walking away in disgust. I read a post from a blogger a few years ago that said when he saw this recently, he asked to work in with the man. The man didn't know that you could adjust the amount of weight he was trying to lift on the machine. So once he did and adjusted the weight, the man saw that what he could do, so then adjusted it and resumed his own workout. The person didn't laugh, call him out, or make him look stupid. He just showed him by doing it without even saying a word, and that's an outstanding example of what to do. Same goes for triathletes, especially when cycling. We all see it on the weekend after Christmas here in Tampa. Flatwoods is packed with new bikes. Families are taking their kids out for exercise. And was it annoying? Yeah, a little annoying, but how great is it to see people outside and not bundled around a video game or a TV or a computer? The saddest thing is the next weekend it was back to normal. At Endurance for Everyone and at Fast Slow Triathlete, our intent is to ensure that people seek out fitness no matter their perceived obstacles. The sad truth is that some of us have become the obstacles. By making people feel uncomfortable or out of place, we chase these newbies out of our gyms and away from our parks and our trails. These people take shelter then back into the comfort of their zone, their own zones, their homes, their TVs, their foods, not to ever be seen again until January of the next year. So one kind word is all it takes. One smile or good morning or one attaboy when seeing them struggle. We that are non-traditional athletes, meaning overweight, slow, non-little rubber people, are already self-conscious about how we look and how we struggle. So the last thing we need is to be made to feel like an outsider. All it takes is one clown with a rude comment to send us scurrying back to our comfort foods and our couches. Like that jerk who screamed at me in Augusta to get my fat ass off the race course. Alternatively, all it may take is one act of kindness, one helping hand, one word of encouragement, and it could start someone on the road to something truly great. And isn't that what we all want?
Ready to start your journey? Whether it's your first workout or you are a seasoned athlete, Endurance for Everyone Coaching wants to work with you. Our coaching team has worked with athletes from beginners to USAT national qualifiers and are comprised of experienced runners, cyclists, and triathletes who have a passion for healthy living and have been where you are. We offer comprehensive coaching programs from weekly support to basic consultation, all designed to help you achieve your goals. If you want to take your performance to the next level, look no further than Endurance for Everyone Coaching. Go to www.teamE4E.com and click on the coaching link or send an email to teamE4E@enduranceforeveryone.com. And let's get started.
I think the one thing that kind of keeps everybody out of the game, especially if you're not, well, let's say not in shape, but let's say the people that are kind of rediscovering fitness that have been out of the game for a long time or maybe have never been in the game in the first place, is a fear. And facing fear of the unknown is the biggest obstacle, I think, to getting people out there. You have all these irrational, and some of them irrational fears. Rational. Fear of drowning when you don't know how to swim is a rational fear. But true bravery is not going out and doing something you're not scared of. True bravery is being scared to death about something and going and doing it anyway. So I think when you face these obstacles, when you look at the new year, say, or really trying to improve yourself in some way, is really getting a hold on fear and how to deal with it in a let's say in a constructive way. Because remember, races and training is 90% mental, and the other 10% is in your head. So once you get that stuff straight in your head, you're more than all the way there. Going out and doing it is the easy part. Once you're out there, it's getting out there in the first place. That's the hard part. So I think when you're facing fear, I think the first thing you need to do is bite off smaller chunks. It's like Stephen Wright used to say, have this, I don't know if you know the comedian Stephen Wright, I'm a big fan of his because I like weird humor like that, but he had this one little bit that said, everything is walking distance if you have enough time. And that's a good example, I think, of taking things in bite-sized chunks. It's one thing to say, I'm going to run 100 miles in Infinitus in June. Well, that's huge, especially if you've never even run 20 miles or 10 miles. That's a lot to take in mentally. And one lost weekend, one lost week to illness can put you mentally so far behind that it's almost like an insurmountable obstacle to think that you can run 100 miles. When I'm training for Disney, I've had issues going back the last 6 months, and honestly, the mental part of it right now is what I'm dealing with in my head. It's not the fact that, well, Rob, messaged me the other day and asked me how training was going. I said, Rob, it's not the mileage. I know I can go out there and do 26 miles, 26.2 miles. It's not that. It's the mental issue of knowing those balloon ladies are right behind me. And can I do it fast enough to stay ahead of them? I know I went out and did 20 miles, and even though it's screwed my feet up, that I'm still dealing with it and everything, it's like I know I can do the mileage. It's the time frame, and that's what screws me up mentally. So I have to get the time out of my head. That's why I'm hoping that Christine being with me will deal with that, because I'll have someone with me to kind of get my mind off what I'm actually doing. When I've trained with Nancy and when I used to train with Jennifer, that was the same way. It's like you can go out there and do 10 miles, and if you have somebody you like being with, or somebody that's kind of fun to be out there on the trail with, on a bike with, it doesn't seem like such work. So biting off smaller chunks, instead of thinking 100 miles, saying, well, I'm going to do 10 miles. And it's that old coaching wisdom, I guess you can call it, is that you can't worry about a training run or a race even that you don't perform well in. If you go out and have a 10-mile run that's awful and you're hurting, well, that's just one run. So the next one might be better. You have to kind of, as they say, well, in the NFL, they say that all the time, quarterbacks have to have the worst memory in the world, because if they throw that bad pick, they have to forget about it and they have to go out there and perform again. They can't dwell on the failures, or perceived failures, let's call them, because that's when they start snowballing on you. So it's just biting off smaller chunks and taking that first step. Now, when you're dealing with depression, which I've had in the past and I've talked about on the show, getting out the door is a very simplistic way of looking at it. But when you're dealing with fatigue issues or depression issues or mental issues, getting out the door is the hardest part. You can know mentally that it's the best thing you can do. After that run, you're going to feel great. But it doesn't matter, because getting out the door, getting on the trail is the hardest part. So that's where that mental stuff comes into. And that's when it helps to have somebody you go out with. If you're dealing with this stuff on your own and you have these issues, more than likely your head's going to win that battle. When you have somebody that's going to kind of pick you up by the scruff of the neck and say, let's get out here, that's when you're going to be more successful at it. And having that person is very important, I think. And you need to accept the fact that the challenges are normal and should be expected. You just need to accept Megan used to say this, like, it's going to suck, it's going to hurt, and you just need to be okay with that. You need to be okay that if you go out there for this marathon, or you go out there in June for the 88K or the 100-miler, it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt everybody. Everybody hurts. It's just how you deal with it. That's the issue. And becoming fearless, I guess, in the face of fear is kind of the end all be all of it. everyone is brave. Like I said, everyone is brave when facing something that doesn't scare them. Bravery happens when something scares you and you do it anyway. And that's really the bottom line. It's like, be brave. This will come as a shock to some of you, but I've been reading a new book. Okay, everybody can stop laughing now. So I picked it up the other day. It's called the Spartan Way by Joe DeCina, and I'm not I won't say I'm not a fan of it, but I'm not a Spartan. I really have no interest in doing Spartan races. But what I do like is philosophies, and I do like reading about people, how people think, and how people grasp certain things. And what's always interested me about Joe DeCina is that he's very gruff. He's very I'd say it, and I don't mean it in a bad way, but I'll say he's a very New York type. You know, he's very in your face. He's very old world Italian, which I guess maybe I'm drawn to because of my grandfather was like that, and the Brooklyn, Manhattan Italians. So even though I'm a Florida guy, I think that's in there. I think it reminds me of that kind of way of thinking, and the kind of the no bullshit, this is what it is, and stop playing around and things like that. So anyway, I'm reading this book, and some of the things are speaking to me. Some of the things are not. And what did speak to me is he starts it off, and really the whole book is based on these virtues, these Spartan virtues that he's come up with. And I thought I'd share these with you because I have some thoughts on some of them, and I really think that they're a good way to think, and you can take them as harshly as upfront as you want. But I think in the end that if you, the way he puts it out is that they're Spartan virtues, and they're required, I guess, to be successful in Spartan races, but they're also required to be successful in life in general. So there's 10 of them, actually 11, because he forgot one and he put it out, in another venue. So it starts off with self-awareness. And I do like this one because I say it at work a lot, and I say self-awareness is knowing who you are and who you are not. I think it matters more to know who you're not. And at work, I get a lot of this because I work for county government. I get a lot of, you're not very political, John. You're not very blah, blah, blah. You need to be more political. And it's not who I am. And I don't like it when people kind of force their own values and their own way that they think people should be onto others. I am somebody that'll say what I think. If I don't like something, I will say that I don't like it. I had someone say, actually, they called it hostile, and I said, well, it's not hostile, it's blunt. And if I don't think something is right, I'm not going to sit there and take it. I'm going to say something that's not right. Now, you may do it anyway, but if I don't agree with something, I'm not going to pretend like I do. If I don't like you, I'm not going to pretend like I do. And, I'll deal with you on a professional level, but I'm not going to, be buddy-buddy with you and kiss up to you, I guess is another way of saying it, just because of who you are, or because you make more money, or because you happen to be in a job longer than I have, so maybe that's the Italian in me coming out, but I'm just not. So I think it's important as a person that you are self-aware, and that you know who you are, and you stand by your own values. These are my values, and I'm not going to waver on them. And regardless of who or what that might happen to me. So I think there's a great first one, and I loved it. So the second one was commitment. Not only setting the plan, but committing to it. This is what I'm going to do. I know a person at work, And I would never say she was very heavy. She's thick, Yeah, that's a nice way of saying heavy, but she was never really heavy, I thought. But I noticed in the past 6 months or so that she's been slimming down. And so I said something, I said, I've noticed a change. What are you doing? And she's been getting up at 4:30 in the morning and doing like a boot camp type class. She doesn't call it boot camp. She calls it something else. But I said, wow, it's like, so you're getting up at 4:30 every morning. You're going to work. You're going to do this. Then you're going to work. And I said, that's a commitment to me because I suck in the morning. I cannot force myself up in the morning to do stuff like that unless it's a race day. And even then, sometimes I can't get up in the morning. But the commitment to it and the fact that now it's become a normal day for her to get up at 4:30 in the morning and do this, I just think it's great. And regardless of even like I said, I never really thought she was heavy, but you can tell she's reproportioning and it's looking good on her. And but that commitment to it is amazing to me, and she's made it a priority in her life, and I love that. So, and I think that relates to the third one, which is passion, and it's that you take things seriously. You don't, if you commit to something, if you commit to training for Ironman, or you commit to training for Infinitus, you need to take that seriously. One of my biggest pet peeves, I guess, in the past is, it's not a pet peeve, it's kind of a jealousy thing, honestly, but people that cannot train and go do things without even training for them. That just drives me crazy. But, good for them, I guess. But to me, it doesn't take it seriously. And there was always this saying that we had is respect the mileage, respect the distance. It's great that you can go out and do it. But if you can go out and do a 11-minute mile for a half marathon without even training for it, what could you do if you took it seriously? And I had a friend, again at work, this was years ago, it said to me when he found out that I was, and this is when I was still really in the triathlons, and I think I was training for Augusta, the last Augusta I did, and I was talking about the bike ride, the 56-mile bike ride, and his comment was, oh, I could do that. I don't even need to train. I could go do that. Well, that's probably true. You probably could. But it's very dismissive to tell somebody who trains all the time to do it that, it's no big deal. I could do that. So I think that's the difference, is that you have to take things seriously. And it has nothing to do with wanting to win. I don't think it does, at least. I think if you make a commitment to something, that you owe it to yourself and to the people whose time, especially if you're a family guy or a family woman, to if you're taking time away from people that you care about to do something, you should take it seriously. It should be serious for you. The fourth thing was discipline. And it's really all these kind of related. So it's commitment and passion, and discipline is setting rules and sticking to them. I'm going to get up at 4:30 in the morning, and that's my rule. And I'm going to get up. It doesn't matter if I couldn't sleep the night before, which is something I asked her about. And she said, yeah, she's had nights where midnight she's still awake, but her rule is to get up at 4:30 in the morning, and she does that. I notice, Stephanie, one of my clients, is that she'll do that too. It's like you work a 12-hour shift at a hospital and you're still out there running afterwards because that's what you have to do. That's your rule. And that's, I think is very important to understand that and get that right. The next thing is prioritization, and that's really comes down to dealing with the important things first and letting the stuff that's not important, either schedule it, give it to somebody else, or don't do it at all. And again, with work, this is a big thing with me at work. It's my first thing is like, is this important? Is this something, if someone gives me a project to do, I say, okay, well, I'm working on 3 other things. Is this more important than those 3 other things? Do I need to stop those things and start on this? Or can I put this off to the side? The problem with work is that everything's the most important thing. And I think we all have been there. Everything's, but then it goes back to the saying that if everything's an emergency, nothing is. So he describes in it, and it's something I learned back in my MBA classes, is that something called the Eisenhower box. And it's basically a little box, it says urgent, non-urgent, do now, do later, blah, blah, blah. So if it falls into the top left, these are the things you do first. You focus first on the important tasks to be done the same day. They have to be done. There's no getting around it. Then if it's urgent but it's important, then you schedule it. It's important, but it's not so urgent that it can't be scheduled. So yeah, it needs to be done by the end of the day. So you schedule for the end of the day or the next day and then the next day, blah, blah, blah. Urgent but not important, you delegate it. What's urgent but less important, you delegate to others. Not so much in training, but more so in business. If you have people under you, there's things they can do. I fall into the trap that I like doing everything myself, and I forget that I have people under me that can do some of these things. So I think I don't know where that comes from, but it's a normal thing for me. And then you have the not urgent and not important. That means you don't do it. If it's neither urgent nor important, there's no need to do it. One of the things I guess at work that I run into is that you'll get these like whims of the people above you that when I hear them, I know, okay, this is not an important thing. But of course, because you have a boss or I have a boss, everything the boss says above them is super important. Everything has to be done. So, because I've been there a while and I know the boss better than my boss knows the boss, I know when this is just a bug. They got they got in their ear and this is not an important thing. So I'll put it to the side and I'll just kind of wait for it to die because it usually will. But I'm not suggesting anybody does that, but there are things that are just not important. And I think when you look at training, the important things are getting your miles in, getting your time in. And some things are not important. Playing a video game is not important. It doesn't need to be done. No matter how much you like doing it, it just doesn't need to be done. You don't need to stay up till 11 o'clock at night watching Game of Thrones if you can tape the thing and watch it, the next day. Setting priorities is one of the ways to get through it. Next thing on the list is something called grit. And I've talked in the past about the fact that I don't really have a killer instinct. I don't think this is really meaning a killer instinct, but it's meaning that you need to not be scared of breaking out of your comfort zone. If it scares the hell out of you to get into a 60-degree open water swim, the grit comes from actually just getting in there and doing it. It's breaking out of your comfort zone and doing the hard, scary shit. And that's where the bravery comes from. So that's where the grit comes from. Courage goes right along with that. Was the seventh thing. Stay focused and work relentlessly, especially through failure. The courage comes when you fail at something you're trying to do. Say your goal is to run a sub 30. You're part of sub 30 group and your goal is to run a sub 30 and you've tried it 10 times and you keep missing the mark. It's the courage to keep going. It's to say, okay, it's not really a failure. It's working towards that goal. It's not a failure to DNF a course. It's a failure to not start it and not try it. That goes back to that racing equation. A did not finish or is better than a did not start. And a dead fucking last, a DFL, is better than a did not finish, and that's better than a did not start. It's the racing equation. So the goal is to get out there and have the courage to try it. The eighth one was optimism, and I'm not sure. He explains it in a way that I'm not sure I agree with it, but I think it's good. Optimism, the way he described it was see the world as you want it to be ever hopeful. I don't know if that's always helpful. I think sometimes you have to see the world as it is. I think when you're overly optimistic, you're kind of fooling yourself to thinking things that are better than they are. I think that's how a lot of mistakes happen, is people aren't seeing the truth. and especially these days. And, seeing the truth, I think when you're overly optimistic, you only seek out things that agree with what you want to believe. And sometimes you have to look at things the harsh way, the hard way, and kind of get into the root of it. It's one thing to say, yes, I'm going to finish a 26.2 mile run in 5 hours. But the realism is that no, it's probably going to be about 7 hours. So I don't know that being optimistic in that way is the right way. But, that's my disagreement, I guess, with him on that one. 9th one is integrity. Be honest with yourself and with others. This goes back to work again. It's like, I believe that you should be always telling the truth, even if it's not the popular thing. Plato said, the most reviled person is the one who speaks the truth. And, well, you see it in the world today. The people who tell the truth are the ones being labeled as fake. And the ones that are the fake people are the ones that people want to believe because they're optimistic and that's what they want to believe. So, the truth is a hard thing, and being a truth teller is a hard thing. And I'm not saying you need to go up to somebody and be brutally honest to the point that it hurts them, but you can be honest with them and say, to be just, I guess I want to say, it's like being honest with somebody doesn't have to be hurtful. You can just be straight front. And that's where it comes from, the bluntness, I guess, that I'm accused of sometimes. But to tell somebody that, they probably shouldn't run a marathon 2 weeks after, they attempted an Ironman, it's being truthful. They may do it anyway. I'm never going to be the type of person to say, don't try it, but I'm going to be honest with you and say, you're probably not going to do well. Or be honest with them and tell them that, this probably is not the best thing to do, but if you want to do it, I'll support you and I'll help you in any way I can. So the integrity comes from knowing who you are, being honest with them and yourself about who you are, and not wavering in that. So, and the 10th one is wholeness. Live a complete life. It's one thing I think as athletes, especially as adult onset athletes, we tend to get focused on that one part of our life, and we forget all the other things, and that can be a problem. And we've seen breakups, we've seen people losing jobs because you get so focused on one thing, especially if you're new to it and you're seeing some success. You become so focused on that thing that you forget about what the other things that are important in your life. So the idea is not to become a zealot, in one way or the other, but to live a complete life. And as long as you're being honest with yourself about everything, and about what you want, then, living a complete life is not so hard to do as long as you know your priorities and what they are. The one he forgot was, he talks about it in the book a little bit, that he went to he was kind of giving a talk, and one of the, it was in the military, and one of the guys raised his hand and said, "You forgot one. What about community?" And so he added that as an extra. You have to go to the website to see it. But I kind of agree with community, because I think that's really important. I think, as I was talking earlier, that you need that person, that community, to kind of pull you up by the scruff of the neck when they see you falling. One thing that I've missed, I used to have that, and it's not just the fact of having somebody tell you to get the hell out there, or just, it's got to be somebody that you trust, and somebody that you respect, and somebody that you, I want to say care about, but somebody whose opinion you care about, to tell you to do that. It's me going out to some guy on the street or at work and saying, "Look, you got to get your ass out there. That's enough." That they don't care. But if I go out to somebody who's a friend of mine and saying, "Look, okay, you need to get out there. I'm going to pick you up at 6 o'clock in the morning, and we're going to go out there and do this." I need that, and this is something I've missed in the past few years. So it's important to have the community around you that helps you meet your goals. I think the worst thing that can happen to you as somebody who wants to be healthy and wants to be successful in whatever you're doing is to build a community around you that's opposite of that. I think we run into that where people are trying to lose weight and they're in a family that's heavy, and you come home and you're trying to eat the right things and you're trying to do the right things, but you have a husband or wife or kids and they're sitting there eating crap, and it's hard to deal with that. Or we just had the holidays. How many people have gone to a holiday? I know one that, they told me that it actually happened to them, that you go to a family get together and they're actually giving you a lot of BS because you're trying to be healthy. They're actually looking down on you because you're being healthy, or you're not, you're being a zealot. You can't just relax for a holiday, but something like that. And that's when it comes down to being true to yourself. I'm not one that's ever bent to the will of my family in that way. But I know it's hard for people, and especially when the family's used to you in a certain way. And I did have that issue. They're used to you being 300 pounds. They're used to you being a couch potato and sitting there watching TV every night and things like that. And then when you try to change, it's almost, it's a threat to them for whatever reason. I mean, that's their own issue, but it becomes a threat to them, and that's hard to live with. So it's important to build a community around yourself that kind of deals with that, and helps you through it. That's the longest show I've ever done in my life on my own. But once again, I hope what I've talked about helps you in some way. Even if it doesn't help you, maybe it helps you, get your thoughts together. And as I always say, I'm not going to be in agreement with everything, and you're not going to be in agreement with everything but me. But always know that it comes from a true place, and that I want to help you. And if you feel you can help me, I'm always willing to accept help. So, Happy New Year once again. 2019 is going to be an awesome year. I hope it's great for everybody else. If you need any help, go to the Facebook group, teamE4E. Lots of people in there willing to help you out. You know where the show is, Twitter and Instagram at teamE4E. And the website is teamE4E.com. Make sure you leave a nice little comment if you can. And, go to the website for the podcast, either on iTunes or on Podbean, and leave us some comments, and we'll be here throughout the year, and let's get out there and do it.
Thanks for listening to the Endurance for Everyone podcast. If you have comments or questions for the show, send an email to teamE4E at enduranceforeveryone.com. And remember, swim calm, bike strong, and run steady.